thanks, Gultigan. I'll pass it over to you for the coffee talk today. And we'll open the floor to questions afterwards. Thanks, Gultigan.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the coffee talk. So today I'm going to present something what I think is going to be interesting, especially for new students, PhD students, early stage researchers, because that's what I came across when I was looking at my problem space in my own research. And I was thinking of how can I convey it. So I just took the example, the context from my research to demonstrate what I want to demonstrate today. So it's about consumer confusion in omnichannel retailing. And I want to give you an overview how problem spaces can evolve over time. So just a brief understanding on the concept of consumer confusion. Consumer confusion is basically a phenomenon observed in by individuals and origins in behavioral psychology. Expressions such as "I am confused," "I feel confused." This is a psychological element heavily studied in medical science and in psychological sciences, and generally defined as a disturbance of consciousness that can cause an individual to be restless and scatty and to misjudge the environment. And that's the key, why it's relevant in this context, and to act futilely. And this phenomenon was transferred later in the 60s into the context of shopping. So Friedman was the first one who did some experiments on confusion in shopping contexts. And usually the confusion in retailing or shopping happens when consumers are overwhelmed by assortment size, by the variety, by the complexity of it, by brand similarities, and general information inconsistencies across the retail setting environment, or by stimuli from store atmospherics, for example. And from a research perspective, this topic is well studied in marketing discipline, psychological marketing disciplines. And the research area got its peak around 2000, mid-2000, 2005, and emerged back again when online channels have been introduced. So usually the research is built around antecedents, dimensions, and consequences. The antecedents, or the sources of the dimensions, are clustered around information and non-informational sources, information overload phenomenon, similarities, ambiguity. Similarity is the case when you might have similar experience when you are looking for a certain product and you see almost identical products, but they're not the same by the brand name. For private label products, for example, and then there's this increased information processing happening, and then because you need to decide which product to pick now. Information ambiguity is when there are inconsistencies. For example, you hear some promotion campaign, and then you go into the store, there's no promotion. And same with non-informational dimensions. Situational is when you get into a store and you want to buy 3 products, but the store is full of people. The social element comes into play here, or other scholars look into individual aspects such as decision-making styles. So people are making quick decisions versus they take a longer time, for example. Also, similarly, purchase involvement. So how much investigation do you do prior to your purchase intention? So all these sources can induce certain dimensions of confusion that could be of cognitive nature, affective or behavioral nature. Cognitive is when it's a rational dimension when there's too much information to be processed. Affective is a dimension observed when consumers feel emotional aspects such as irritation, frustration, or even annoyance. And behavioral is they have certain behavioral intentions prior to the shopping purchasing actions, but they change because of the occurrence of the confusion. And consequences can be divided into short and long-term consequences. Short-term consequences happen at point of sale, so immediate reactions such as purchase abandonment, postponement, reactance, cognitive dissonance, that's helplessness, observed a lot, and long-term consequences. What happens afterwards: negative word of mouth, shopping fatigue, loss in loyalty, trust, impact on the brand, dissatisfaction in general, and rethinking of future purchase intentions. So this is the spectrum of confusion research in retailing from a traditional perspective. Here just a quick note on how information load affects decision accuracy. So on the right, you see the graph. At a certain level, it collapses, so information overload leads to a collapse, and as a result, it can lead to poor decision making and subsequently to adverse responses. So this is not necessarily coming from confusion discipline, consumer confusion discipline, but generally information processing discipline. This is the most studied antecedent in the domain. So now what I wanted to initially talk about is, so there's a lot of research going on in the traditional setting, but as you know, we are now in the age of omnichannel retailing. So omnichannel retailing is different to the traditional setting. Here just to showcase the evolution of the different channels. Today we are facing an omnichannel shopping environment more and more. Back in the day it was single channel. So linear, direct contact to the point of sale, and multi-channel. There were just additional channels, so alternative channels, and at some stage, retailers started to integrate, combining those alternative channels in order to, reach certain marketing goals, etc. And Omnichannel is the state of the art today, which represents the fully integrated and connected ecosystem of touch points and channels. So at the end, it doesn't matter ideally, it doesn't matter for the customer which touch point to start your purchase journey from and where to end it. So the expectation is that each touch point delivers same information, same pricing information, same assortment, same offerings, same retail information. That's the expectation. Now, so we see that the setting has evolved from single channel to omnichannel, but prior research is just concentrated on a single channel context. And now, what I observed when I was doing my research is that this confusion phenomenon needs to be reassessed based on these new conditions. So the major characteristics of omnichannel retailing is what's called channel switching behavior or cross-channel hopping. So the general behavior of a consumer who is switching from one channel to another. And there are certain classifications. You see here the most common ones are referred to as showrooming and web rooming. So you start one channel, and during your shopping journey, you do one switching action. Or in the most expressed way, omni shopping, that means you are utilizing many devices at the different stages of your customer journey. Now, when we think back again on the consumer confusion phenomenon that was happening, or is still happening, of course, in the single channel context, just exposed to assortment variety or complexity, store stimuli. Now we see a new dimension to it, which is the channel switching dimension. So the customers are not only exposed to the potential confusion at the specific retail situation in single channel, but are now also confronted with potential new experience while being exposed to products, price information across channels. So this is what I wanted to convey to you. And here are some examples representing some evidences observed in this case from social media. For example, the example below, it says either is there a reason why all perfumes have been removed from the Venezuela shopping app and website. So we see, because of the expression, is there a reason? So there's increased processing behavior, information processing behavior. It's not clear. So the person's not understanding why conditions change. And the last, I'm gutted, my nearest RS was so emotional reaction, emotional experience. So just to conclude, what I wanted to say is that problem settings evolve over time and they can represent new research challenges. And as we know, generally a problem space can be characterized by its domain, its stakeholders, its time, and also in perspective of the solutions. So that's where it comes very interesting then. Are those solutions that or explanations that address the phenomenon from a traditional setting still valid, or do they need some update? Can they inform new solutions? And I'm pretty sure that you also came across a similar experience when you were doing your own research. And yes, thanks for your attention and happy to start this discussing.
Thank you very much, Gultgen. Excellent. Yeah, we can open the floor to questions or anyone online. Anyone, any questions for Gultgen?
Yeah, I might have a question, but just again, showing more, trying to understand a bit more. So in the context you have here is that you said that this research on confused peaked in 2005, around mid 2000s.
Yes.
Then is now back somehow.
So that's what I propose. Like
That's okay. So it's not an observation from the literature.
No, like there's only 1 or 2 studies actually, but also not highlighting that, you know, in the same wording as I'm doing it, like there's an update required. It's just setting wise. So it's experimental studies, they have a setting and then they say, oh, there are 2 channels and there's confusion happening because inconsistent pricing.
Yeah,
that's it. But they're not proposing, look, we need to rethink.
Yeah. Yeah, so what literature showed was more like a consequence of internet in the late 90s. And so the research that you're talking about is when the first online retailers appeared and people started to note those differences, study that.
Yes, but still in an isolated way.
Yeah, it's isolated, exactly. Yeah.
They started looking into this phenomenon from an internet e-commerce perspective. So what is information overload in a web shop? What is similarity? Because there are also new elements, you know, filtering mechanisms, etc. So that's what happened up until I think 2015 or 16. And there was nothing. And then at 18, one study appeared looking into the omnichannel context.
Yeah. Okay. So
like the connected.
So there's not yet really, a lot of research of that element in this context.
Like very, very scarce. This is no,
it's interesting. It hasn't really started that because it's And well, yeah. And by the way, just to move on with another question.
Sure,
It's not no added value. Just trying to understand so far.
Please go ahead.
Understand is part of it. Yeah, you mentioned single multi-cross omnichannel.
Yes.
So what difference between cross and omnichannel, like concretely speaking? Because from what I understand, there cross is a kind of a beginning of an omnichannel, but not fully developed. So, but like concretely speaking, can we really dissociate those 2 categories into, this is cross, this is omni, or is it still a bit like?
Yeah, the quick answer is that in a cross-channel concept, you integrate some channels. But in omnichannel context, you integrate all channels. Like that's the quick answer. And the long answer would be that in cross-channel retailing, there are different approaches. So some retailers might integrate their e-commerce platform with their brick and mortar stores, but neglect social media channels, for example, because of contextual elements that they want to, realize marketing goals, distribution goals, whatever. So quite individual situation and context. And whereas omnichannel retailing is pretty much induced from a consumer side. So when consumers use your different channels, they expect that they're fully integrated. We were in the working environment, we were used to that. When we look at Microsoft platforms, cloud solutions, your emails are synchronized in an instant, independent from your device. So that's what the customers are now expecting also from the retailing context. And that's not easy to realize because, you know, specifically what I'm focusing on is assortment, right? So you can look into assortment in a physical store, but you have to face physical space limitations. But in e-commerce, you may want to utilize what's called the long tail effect. So you can profit from niche products. And that is not conflicting, right? So you have a large assortment versus a small assortment physical, but they're not consistent. And that can induce confusion effect, for example. Yeah, sorry. So the long answer was a bit more.
Yeah, but is it just confusion in terms of the availability in which channel, or I mean, you know, I would have thought that I've used Omnichannel for, like, I was just using it yesterday. I was looking for a particular computer peripheral, and I checked the site Currys, and they can tell me whether it's in stock in my local store or whether I can only buy it online, right?
Yes.
So I understand.
Yes,
Where
it's
it's available.
so
it's up to me whether I want to wait for the delivery or whether I
yes.
Can find it in my store or in the local store, or whether I want to go to Blanchardstown, make the extra journey to Blanchardstown. So
as long as you have the information,
yeah,
then from a certain point of view, it's considered integrated. Like the information is integrated. But imagine you look at on the website, oh, this is what was the accessory, and they say, oh, this is what I'm going to buy. I need to check it first. I don't know, quality or whatever. And then you go to the shop, it's not there. But with the information online, it says available at certain stores or whatever, or in Blanchardstown, whatever. But then you're informed and you know. So this is sort of compromise, like.
But is it essentially not a UX question?
There's both. Like, it's also a UX question. I think some studies actually looking at the UX antecedents in that play a major role actually in the online environment. But again, like if we just leave out the information, it will convey a different experience. I mean, it's very like in Omnichannel, it's very early. Like as I was saying, like 2 studies, they're looking at pricing, the other ones are looking at assortment. But none of them is actually looking at the actual reason, which is channel switching behavior. None of them is talking about channel switching behavior. So when you look at those different type of journey expressions, this will give you an idea of where to look at, where the phenomenon can be addressed or identified. Well, this is interesting.
Yeah. No, I can see why it would be, because I decided not to buy it in that store. It's switched to Amazon. Yeah, it's delivered quicker.
and that's interesting because we're talking here about channels, but when you talk about Amazon, you actually have also using a shop to find something, then going to a competitor. Amazon to actually buy your the product. So can I find the same in Amazon, and then you do that somewhere else and the company's website itself. So it may look like an abandonment here, but the purchasing action hasn't been abandoned.
Yes, that's true. That's actually it's captured as the research shopping phenomena. So they just use like your channel to do research, but they buy elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's posing a lot of problems, lost sales.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. The original intention was to buy it that day, but because they didn't have it, they wanted to charge me for delivery. I went to Amazon where you could buy it cheaper and have it delivered quicker.
Yeah.
You see, there are also like different factors coming into play altogether, like expectation, like the delivery time, offering in general. So based on that research, what I did, based on talking with the practitioners, these are all the factors that come all together.
Yeah.
But eventually, we would need to start somewhere with one aspect of it. So the confusion aspect is one angle to start, because there there's like 2 or 3 studies that actually quantifies the losses, or as they predict if even 1% of the store visitors, the footfall in the physical store, would abandon purchases, that would equal to whatever total in a year. But still, retailers prefer to prioritize other decisions, right? Such as instead of having the same offering everywhere at each channel, they stick to mitigation methods like, listen, this product is available. 2 stores in stock here, 4, there are 10 still, etc. So, agreement that's decision area. But I found that interesting. Another example would be, so we're all familiar about product strategies versus platform strategies. So we talked earlier today about platform strategies. So product strategies are, linear value chain steps: supplier, manufacturer, value added, marketing, consumer, consumption, etc. But now we have multi-sided platforms, and the rules, basically, the gaming rules are different. So existing concepts such as how do you scale your profitability, for example, or how do you, build your ecosystem in a linear product system, those concepts need to be updated now with the new concepts existing in multi-sided platforms. It's a similar thing. So, but as we know, this discipline is really well studied now, really popular. That would be another example, actually. Okay.
It's interesting. If you go to the next slide, there was the Zara example. Sorry, was struck from the answer from Zara after you online. Please be advised that we are unable to provide information of future replenishment of our items, so that they're not really trying to mitigate. They're not trying to find a kind of a solution. They're just saying, okay, we cannot do anything, and we are not trying to give.
To send a similar product or...
Yes, exactly. They could have said, okay, please not, okay, thank you for the interest in our product. They could have said, I don't know, you can order online, but they pick up in the physical store. I mean, they could have find some kind of mitigate or some kind of a trade-off that, because this is to me, okay, we don't, okay, it's not currently, it's not available, and we don't know, we don't care when it's going to be online. So that I would expect something in what to say. Okay, you have a computer, there is a problem. We try somehow to solve or to mitigate the problem. No, they just, okay, they don't care. I don't know if there is some other, I mean, the discussion is continuing, but at least it's, from this answer, it's not really helping.
I think that Zara, I mean, they're more, again, I don't know anything about closure, just from textbook. They have a very quick turnaround of their products, apparently. And so maybe that could explain why they don't really know, if they will replenish a model or not.
Yeah.
It's very, very reactive. So which makes the success of your products, by the way, I think.
Yeah.
Again, from textbook, I don't know myself, but given the turnaround experience, the turnaround of the product is so quick that it creates that sense of scarcity to the client, and then they know that the product won't. Actually, it is a strategy to say, look, this product is gone, cannot buy anymore. So next time you see a product, go and buy it because you won't replenish it. So
then that means also that they have limitations. So they probably have a particular factor in terms of we only, putting this amount of products out.
on purpose.
And yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So first come, first serve. If you want it in exactly what you are now.
Once you see it, buy it. Or the next time it won't be there.
Yeah, it's clever.
So maybe it is part of their.
Yes.
But again, from textbooks, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about.
Yes.
So you didn't get purple sandals. Huh?
Especially purple sandals, yeah.
And no, another just another thought was that I understand, of course, consumer confusion, but what we were discussing before about the fact people see on, for example, something in a physical store, and then they go online and buy in someone else's store. So it's a really omni-channel, but it's kind of done by the person. So this is consumer confusion, but in this case, consumer advantage. Consumer is a kind of empowerment, because it's very empowered because you go and see things in one place and buy in another, online by yourself. And so that you can really switch so it's not at that point, it's not, you are not confused. Actually, you are is a kind of availing of that that possibility of using different channels from different stores, from different.
And it's interesting, sorry. No, so I'm just saying, well, such the interesting part here is that we don't know what the picture below means, but maybe
Yes, exactly.
it's not from the Zara's website. So
Yes,
there's no
exactly.
confusion from Zara's perspective. Just
Exactly.
maybe she saw that in some model using the sample. I don't know the context, but it's just
Exactly.
Yeah, just to comment on that. So that's a very good point, Marco. Because I think it emerged like in the last 10 years that retailers started deliberately utilizing different channels.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, some retailers use so-called showrooms where you can actually purchase stuff just to showcase the line of products. It's branding, marketing goals, realization. And the other thing is there's also a chunk of research stream looking into how to mitigate switching, like, to competitors.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's the one that makes them, causing big headaches, especially in the beginning. So that's their job. They and you're right, like the confusion when they abandon the purchase.
Yes.
It's not necessarily because confused, they just got, but exactly. So how are we going to look into that? So how can we know if it's because of confusion or if it was a research shopping? And I think that was actually made. I did some attempt with a colleague, conceptually at least, to look into social media data, how to assess whether it is like the origins of confusion or it's like some other intention. Yeah. And yeah,
Mansour, is there, sorry, I'm interrupting, but you see Mansour has his hand up if there's time for one last question.
Yeah, right. So thanks, Gultekin, for the wonderful presentation. And the topic is really interesting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
yes.
So this reminded me of a use case scenario. For example, if you take an example of Next, whose sale is coming up probably starting with Saturday. So most of the times it's like you need to look into all the items which are available. So if you add them to the basket and when you are trying to check out, they say the item has already been sold out. So do you think that these kind of things could hinder in omni-channel retailing? And on top of it, if you do you consider quick commerce or operational excellence or the fraud kind of thing could have adverse effect on this kind of retailing?
Yes, absolutely. So what you just mentioned, this is one of the key challenges omnichannel retailers are facing. Is inventory transparency, real-time inventory solutions. And I've spoken to some retailer, for example, and they introduce sort of a what was it called? I forgot the name, but it's similar to click and collect. So customers were able to come and they reserve some product, but not purchase it. So, but they didn't double match with the inventory. So eventually, when the salesperson was looking into the product, a warehouse or wherever, was not there. So cases that were not there. So this kind of information limitation is existent, and obviously IT solutions will help here. And in the context of confusion, yes. So consumer confusion phenomenon is very similar to the out of stock experience. So when you come and to the store and you want to buy a product, it's not there. So either it's not listed at all there, or it's like out of stock. And but sometimes you see just there's a position, but it's empty, right? And then you know, oh, it's out of stock. And in other cases, you might talk to salespeople, and then they will just straight tell you, oh, either they don't know, or I will look in my system, it'll take 10 minutes, and things like that. So these kind of avenues are still going on, I think,
Yeah.
to omnichannel retail, because omnichannel retail is theoretically an ideal concept, and very, very few retailers actually realize it. What's
That brings me to my question. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
no, go ahead. I
The
was
difference between cross-channel and omnichannel,
Mhm.
because what is actually omnichannel? In
Yes.
real-time information, I Googled quickly, they talk about interactive interaction or something like that. Yeah, interactivity. So is it about real-time information? So again, I've read about a while ago, but I don't have it anymore. But I think it'd be interesting to have this clear,
Yes.
in a certain, what is cross, what do we expect from omnichannel? Because ultimately, we would, if we had the full omnichannel experience, we wouldn't have confusion at all. Is that the aim to? Is the aim of omnichannel to eliminate confusion?
I agree. Yeah.
So
But
but
this
that's
is like also then, sorry, how do you progress in eliminating that,
Mhm. You mean this?
the confusion?
Yeah, like either you, I mean, it depends on how you prioritize it. So if you can prove that there's a significant role in it, okay, we need to mitigate the confusion now in our retail offerings. Then you prioritize, and eventually the most extreme, let's say in the pricing, for example, every price tag's the same on every channel. Assortment, like you have all your products on every channel available. That would be like the extreme. But now you have to compare that to the costs involved, right?
But then sorry, Carol, I will stop now, I promise. But the part is, if you want to eliminate the confusion, then you will obviously have to sort of categorize. This is related to product pricing.
Ideally, yeah.
And so on, right?
Ideally, yes.
Okay, yeah. Because then you sort of know this is about product related things, so that is what we need to do. And if this is now the SKU or
Yes,
whatever
yes.
the
Yeah.
and that sort of thing, that sort of thing. So
that's
yeah,
good to see some speaking here as well, concretely what it makes.
yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you, Goldkin. I think we'll have to leave it there, folks, for this week's
Next
Coffee
time.
Talk.
The next one.
Next time.
Thanks
And,
a lot, guys.
Sorry,
thanks,
Carol.
thanks everyone for joining, and I think we'll have to leave it there now. I know we could talk for longer, but we'll be back next week with our Coffee Talk next Thursday. Thanks again, Goldkin, and everyone for joining.